Kuzuzampo, welcome to Bhutan This Week, our weekly news magazine program with me, Sonampem. Our top stories this week. Her Majesty the Gelson graces launch of waste management facilities in Thimphu. The National COVID-19 Task Force announces changes in the COVID-19 protocols. And footballer Tsenchu Gelson to play for Kerala Blasters football club. The waste management issue within Thimphu and the district is expected to get better now. The National Environment Commission Secretariat and the Waste Management Flagship Program launched several waste management facilities, including waste drop-off centers for the residents of Thimphu. Her Majesty the Gelson, the royal patron for the environment, graced the event.
Her Majesty the Gelson graced the launch of Waste Drop-Off Centre at Tanrina in Thimphu. 9 such facilities are set up within the Thimphu to address the city's waste management issues. The facilities will mainly cater to those people who cannot catch up Thomde's waste collecting vehicles. During the event, electric waste collection vehicles for the Thimphu 25 waste collection facilities for the Geogs in Thimphu, and a website for Zero Waste Bhutan were also launched.
It will give the information on the facilities that are going to be launched or will be implemented through the flagship program. So as and when we have the facilities and infrastructures coming up under the program, it will be updated for public's information, and also we will be digitizing the routes and a lot of other information on waste. Example, the location of drop-off centers, if there is a change in the route of the collection vehicles, all those things will be slowly updated in the website now.
The facilities are going to help us immensely. For example, until now, waste collection timing has been a big issue for the Thomde residents. When the collection vehicles can't make it on time, people drop their waste everywhere. So, with the launch of these facilities, people can drop off their household waste any time of the day at the centers.
The initiative is a part of the Waste Management Flagship Program to make Bhutan a waste-free society by 2030. The Prime Minister, the Foreign Minister, who is the chair of NEC, and other stakeholders were present for the event. Pupkem for BBS News.
The National COVID-19 Task Force announced a few changes in the COVID-19 protocols. They include a reduction in the quarantine period for people entering the country, extension of business operating hours, and permitting sports activities. A press release from the task force stated that it has been over 2 weeks now since Finsoling and Samsi last reported positive cases from the community. Besides, 65% of the total population has been fully vaccinated so far.
With the latest changes, the 3-week mandatory quarantine period for all travellers entering the country is reduced to 2 weeks. The Health Ministry has been advised to redesign and decide the testing strategy to heightened health surveillance during the quarantine period. The surveillance team has also been advised to work out a testing pattern and facilitate exit of those who are in facility quarantine and have completed 2 weeks. However, the 7-day mandatory quarantine for travellers from high-risk to low-risk areas will continue to be in place, with risk looming large. Today, a positive case was detected from the facility quarantine in Thimphu on the 7th day. The patient had travelled from Finsoling. Meanwhile, the business opening time is also extended from 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. for low-risk areas and from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. in high-risk areas. However, according to the task force, everyone must continue to operate with as minimum crowd as possible. Beginning today, all indoor and outdoor sports are allowed across the country. Tournaments and matches are allowed without spectators, and those in the high-risk areas will require clearance from local task forces. According to the task force, in the event of any indication of local transmission, these changes in COVID-19 protocols will be withdrawn immediately. People are also urged to continue observing basic COVID-19 health instructions of wearing mask, hand washing, and avoiding crowd. Gyalzang Choden for BBS News.
Renew, in collaboration with the Education Ministry, launched the Days for Girls kits, which are washable menstrual health kits at the Khastrapchu Middle Secondary School. It will be piloted for 6 months, after which it will be expanded in other schools. Days for Girls Australia, an international NGO, is funding the program. Health Minister Dichin Wangmu urged girls to talk about menstruation, as it is a natural and a healthy part of the life of women and girls.
If you shy away from it, if you hide your pads, if you hide your stained underwears, then I think the change will take a long time. So I think when we talk about empowerment, we are talking about having a dialogue on it. Talking about periods, it's okay. Talking about your pain is okay. Asking for help is okay. Because that is who you are, and we must cherish that.
The washable menstrual kit is going to be convenient for the girls.
짱아리디 톱집나 다딩아치 안디 록치 취취를 라글린 탑투는 메발라데 안 라글린 탑투는 되게 대가치 록치 파 조망고바 ngoe 차망고.
Besides Khastrapchu, Genika School also received the menstrual kits. And according to Renew, the two schools were selected as they are located in the rural part of Thimphu.
The purpose of this kit is to educate our girls on menstrual health. The kit is mainly designed for the rural area school students, especially girls.
The menstrual kit, worth 900 Newton, contains 2 shields, 8 liners, 1 transport bag, a drawstring bag, 2 pairs of undergarments, soap and a small towel. Renew plans to train women to make menstrual kits in the country if the pilot program goes well. For Karma Wangdi, Sunampem for BBS News. Thimphu District Court sentenced 40-year-old Khandu Wangmo to a concurrent prison term of 5 years. She was found guilty of 3 counts of sedition.
Khandu Wangmo was handed down a prison term of 15 years, but the court gave a concurrent prison term of 5 years. She was convicted of writing seditious documents like Prayers for Your Majesty the King of Bhutan, to the King of Bhutan Tashi Chezong Thimphu, and Dear Sir, please forward this to Deputy President. According to the penal code, a defendant shall be guilty of the offence of sedition if the defendant issues an insulting and hateful statement against His Majesty or the royal government with the intent to defame, disrupt, encourage contempt, or incite hatred of the people against Bhutan. According to the judgment, she asked a few individuals to distribute the seditious documents with the intent to damage the lives of her ex-husband, Pemagasal Trongpen Yishidoji, and his family members. In July, Khandu Wangmo was also given a concurrent sentence of 9 years. She was convicted of abetting mutiny, criminal misappropriation of property, larceny by deception, illegal possession of firearms, and impersonation of uniformed personnel. She also received an additional prison term of 18 months for solicitation of official misconduct and harassment. However, the conspiracy case is now in the High Court after 3 defendants appealed. Sringzam, BBS News.
Meanwhile, the Office of the Attorney General will appeal the case to the High Court. They called it a meagre sentencing. The OAG said Khandu Wangmo should be sentenced to at least 15 to 27 years prison term as she was proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. According to the OAG, such sentencing will establish a wrong precedent and pose a grave concern to the security, sovereignty and constitutional sacredness of the established institutions. For time immemorial, the aboriginal inhabitants of southern Bhutan, the Lhops or Doyabs, have depended on millets as a staple diet. Millets are as sturdy as the Lhops themselves. Moreover, the small seeded grass can grow in dry zones and on land with low soil fertility and moisture. And with climate change leading to loss of soil fertility and increasing the frequency of droughts, millets may just be the climate-smart food for the future.
It is lunchtime in the Lhop village of Ngawaramte in Tadingyok, Samtsi. Inside their rustic old hut, Shegoma Doya is preparing a foxtail millet meal for her grandsons. Hungry from the day's play, the children feast on foxtail millet topped with turnip greens or lomkam dish.
Compared
Compared to the rice we get from the market, the millet we eat here is far better. It is expensive to buy rice, but the millets we don't have to buy. We can make it into porridge for those who can't chew or are sick. We just need to add water, salt and oil. Even old people can have it. I love eating millet. We have different varieties of millet.
Hopes say the varieties of millet that they grow are all healthy, which is why it is their go-to meal.
For our body, the millet we grow here is the best. The different varieties we have like kodo, jamsheri, makai and shama are all good for health.
Every Lhob household in Tadingyog and Lhobs in Doroka grows millet. In Tading, there are 5 varieties of millets. Harvested millets are separated from the grass it grew on and dried in the sun before husking.
This is matzak we needed for funeral rites and rituals. This is bugai, we eat it. This is doga, dumburi, and this is mulsak. We can cook and eat or feed it to chickens.
As far as the experience of the Lhobs go, millet is an easy crop to grow. The crop does not require plowing of fields or irrigation water. The little moisture in the soil and occasional rainwater is enough for a bountiful harvest.
We begin clearing land and setting it on fire before sowing millets in November. After sowing, when the seeds start to sprout, we have to do the weeding. We have to do weeding only once. After that, it will grow by itself. If it rains, it will grow fast. And if there is no rain for a longer duration, it will take longer to grow. We sow it in November and December, and by April, it will be ready for harvest. But different varieties are sowed at different times of the year.
And the age-old experience of the Lhobs is backed by science. At the National Center for Organic Agriculture in Yosipan, Thimphu, works are being done to encourage farmers to keep growing millets.
Experts have found out that millets have a very high resilient capability to climate changes, and millets have a very multiple adaptive capabilities, and it can perform very well under extreme temperatures. Like for instance, foxtail millet, other millets like finger millet, small millets, which are popularly grown in Bhutan, they can perform as high as 46 degrees Celsius extreme temperatures. Whereas for instance, major cereals like rice and wheat, they can perform up to only about 37 to 38 degrees Celsius.
Apart from handling climate extremities, millets have a short growing season, enabling farmers to grow the crop twice a year.
We talk about food security, and on the other hand, we must also talk about nutrition security. Now, comparing to rice, millets have a much better nutrition than rice. For instance, millets are very rich in protein, like it possesses 7 to 8% of protein content.
While the rest of the country comes to grips with the millet advantage, back at Ngawaramte, it is another sowing season. Lhobs are now slowly moving away from shifting cultivation. They are currently experimenting by planting millets on plowed fields. Sharab Doji, BBS News.
Exporters are happy with the new system of exporting agricultural products. They can directly take it to India by changing the driver in Finsoling. It means they don't have to transship to other vehicles. The first batch of 9 truckloads of vegetables was exported last month.
Drivers from India come to Phinsoling following COVID safety protocols. They then drive the trucks to India. The products are unloaded in Jaigaon and the trucks return immediately.
Earlier, we used to get stuck for a few days at the transshipment areas. The vegetables would rot. With this initiative of driver switching mode here, it is very convenient.
Exporting vegetables without having to transship here seems to be a very effective measure. It will be convenient for the exporters. We have to pay transshipment charges here, which will ultimately affect our farmers.
The transshipment areas have to handle both imports as well as exports. So the task force came up with the initiative which is on trial.
Some exporters are reluctant to send their vehicles across the border while others are happy with the initiative. They say there is a shortage of laborers here and even the transshipment charges are high, so it is better to send the vehicles directly there. We have considered both the cases and planned accordingly.
But exporters can still choose to transship their products in Phinsoling. Today, truckloads of cabbages, potatoes, carrots and apples are being exported. For Sonam Pinjur in Chukha, Sam Tendolkar, BBS News.
Cattle released by the Simchen Seta Tsokpa are becoming a menace along the Gyalifu-Tongsa highway. The three geoks of Jimicholing, Sejong and Gyalifu in Sarpang are concerned since the cattle damage crops along the way and disrupt traffic. So the geoks in the recent Zongkhok Tsokdu appealed to relocate the animals.
During the meeting, the Gups of three geoks alleged that the Setar Tsokpa released the cattle without their approval.
The way Semchen Cheder Tsokpo works is not saving the animals but killing them. When the animals enter farmlands, people beat them. These animals have no shelter and can't even stay in the insect-infested jungles. And when they make their way into the roads, vehicles hit them and many were killed.
Setar Tsokpa released the cattle in our gyok more than 6 months ago. Some 50 animals were released above the Gyalifu-Sachu area and an additional 80 were released later. Since no one is there to take care of the animals, they have damaged orange trees and cardamom plants.
The district livestock officer informed the meeting that the Setar Tsokpa is not registered with the civil society organization.
The organization was questioned. They violated the law since they did not inform either the Zongkhok administration or the Gyok administrations. They set free a total of 143 cattle, 22 hens and around 20 goats at once as per the Serjong Gup. And this was when the problem started.
The meeting directed the Bhutan Agriculture and Food Regulatory Authority to conduct a detailed investigation and report to the Zongkhok administration.
The investigation should be carried out as per the law now that we know that Tsokpa is not a registered CSO. Check if there are identification marks on the released cattle. Also check if places where animals are released have the required amenities and cow herders as per the law. If it is not as per the law, we might have to cancel their works.
In July, most of the animals were relocated to different districts when people in the geoks complained. However, some cattle released were left behind, loitering along the Gyalifu-Tongsa highway. For Karmawanti in Sarpang, Kinzang Hladin, BBS News.
Musicians can now get certified as professionals in the country. This comes after the Heritage Education and Professional Development Center at the Paro College of Education, in collaboration with the Labour Ministry, started recognizing musicians with national certificates this year. The first batch of about 12 musicians sat for the assessment in Paro recently. With no official recognition and certificates, these musicians, who often appear on live shows and singing competitions on national television, are not considered professionals. But not anymore.
I've been in the music industry for over 15 years now. Still then, while in the hot seat, I was nervous. In the current situation, a certificate is a must. No matter how talented we are, only a certificate will recognize us as professionals. So we are grateful for giving us this opportunity.
I have many certificates in music, but none are worthy in the market. After I resigned from RAPA, I go to schools teaching the art of traditional music. But we are often asked to produce certain documents proving our excellence, but we fail to provide one. The certificate from the assessment will help us.
Now, with rapid development in the country, only certificates are accepted in all firms. Even if we aspire to train or give music classes to youth and children, we need certificates to prove that we are professionals. If you don't have a certificate, then it might affect our opportunities. That's why I took part in the program.
It is my 25th year in RAPA, and it took over 2 decades for me to acquire such a certificate. It was only 3 years ago I got my certificate from RAPA. I believe that whoever completes training must be awarded a national certificate.
With the entry of various modern musical genres and instruments, traditional music has stood the test of time.
We assess them in theory and practical. In theory, it is all about the background of particular music. For instance, in National Certificate 2, it is Drumnyan and Yangchen. They must appear for an examination and show their instrument playing skills. And in National Certificate 3, it is on flute and chiwang.
People who are skilled and have experience in art and music lack certificates recognizing them as professionals. And as it is directly related to our center, we took up this initiative.
Recognizing and certifying traditional musicians is expected to go a long way in preserving traditional art and music in the country. For Namgyeonsho in Paro, Sonampem for BBS News. The Bhutanese football sensation Sencho Gyaltsen, or CG7 as he is more popularly known as, will now play for Kerala Blasters Football Club. He will be with the Indian club, which plays in the country's top tier of football, the Indian Super League, for a year. Kerala Blasters FC was established in 2014 during the inaugural season of the Indian Super League. It is one of the most widely supported clubs in Asia.
The nahi lochi saab the tiche lochi wila jinde. The panakum che khas kham chikale ani the agent chigi ngalu message ondala. Then the Asian kungi and Kerala gi road ngalu to ke de temuchi kungi and low dis club ni pana low dis be wachin the chi khatule kade mose. The club ni koi khat di be wachin the ngai kol ngari khatule matu mi se lapchila. Then we transfer fee to then we Kerala na chodol. The ngachara nagi football gi toy me duse kundu se na namse salan de dula the kachibe so watching the ISL de the ngachnalu ngachara nagi jangthong nale temmelan me ni kage karagi jisubesla then many ati ngara namse salan de se junwela.
That's all for this week. Thank you for joining us.